All right, let's go ahead and get started. My name is Doug McIntyre. I'm a professor of business administration at Hardin-Simmons University. Prior to that, I spent 23 years in commercial banking, and I moved to teaching in 2005, and I spend most of my time trying to stamp out ignorance now. So that's kind of what I spend my time with. So this morning, we have heard from marketing. We've heard how important marketing is, and we've got some excellent suggestions and recommendations on things we can do to enhance our marketing. We also heard a lot about recruiting and retention and how important that is, and we heard a lot about soft skills, training, and things that we need for our employers to come in. And now we're to the money piece. If we're not adequately capitalized and do not have the money available to help us run our businesses, to either buy raw products, to make payroll, to carry accounts receivable, any of those things, we can't really do the first two. So we have to make sure that we have our financial house in order, so to speak, and have capital that's available for us. So before I really get started, I would like to ask all of the business owners or the entrepreneurs if you would just stand up for a second, please. Okay, I want you to give yourself a hand. And the reason that I say that is I appreciate that y'all are willing to put yourself out there to take a step off that cliff and to put your family's financial resources at risk. There's not a lot of safety nets a lot of times for you guys, and so some of the things that will be that you've heard today, will help with that. Next, I would like for any entity that's here that is funded by any tax dollars. City, state, county, federal, will y'all stand up? Okay, you can have a seat. Thank you. So Ronald Reagan in 1986 said the 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, "I'm from the government and I'm here to help." And the reason that I wanted to say that was I wanted y'all to look around the room and see that statement's not really true. Is that our government has provided, and we have many, many resources that are available, most of it, if not all of it, for free, okay? So with that, let me introduce our panelists today. First one on my far right is Calvin Davis. Calvin is the District Director of the West Texas District Office of the Small Business Administration and is responsible for the delivery of the SBA's programs and services throughout 71 West Texas counties that make up that region. Formerly, he served as a Small Business Administration legal counsel in the Los Angeles District of the SBA, and he now lives in Lubbock, and he told me Lubbock and LA are really a lot alike. They both start with an L. And the El Paso districts, while holding the distinction as a Special Assistant United States Attorney. Prior to that, he was a tax consultant and a tax attorney with Arthur Anderson and Company in Washington, D.C., and with KPMG in L.A. He holds a Bachelor of Science in Accounting from Langston University in Oklahoma and a J.D. from Howard University School of Law in Washington, D.C. He's the recipient of numerous awards and citations for his professional work and community service from the White House, the SBA, and from several states, cities, communities, and civic groups. He's also an advisor and board member to numerous nonprofit organizations and serves on numerous boards. He's married to the beautiful and brilliant Renee Gonzalez Davis, and they have 2 grown children, Torrin and Tecklin. So, Mr. Davis, we're glad you're here. Second, Alan Hartmann. Alan is the president of Hartmann's Inc., where he leads a successful operation making high-precision machine parts for very precise and demanding applications. He coordinates all of the business operations and sales, along with developing new manufacturing processes that promote efficiency and accuracy with all of the business core processes. He works with high-profile customers from companies such as Boeing, Lockheed Martin, Cummins Engine, and Johnson & Johnson, and he's positioned Hartmann's to become a reliable solution to the problems that plague the manufacturing industry throughout our country. He's a father of 3. He spends his favorite time with his family and his wife, Tracy. He likes to travel, is a gun enthusiast, a fisherman, and loves to cook for his friends and family, and he's actually doing lunch. So as soon as we get out of here, he's got to run over to the kitchen. The last one is John Powell. He has a degree in ag business from Abilene Christian University and works for the USDA Rural Development as an area director. He has over 20 years experience working in rural economic development, and he began his career in the USDA's Rural Development States Office, where he specialized in financing multi-million-dollar infrastructure and community projects for cities, hospitals, and nonprofit organizations. In 2010, he transitioned to the area director for West Central Texas. He currently covers 45 counties in the North and West Central Texas and oversees 4 office locations in Abilene, Brownwood, Decatur, and Ozona. He's based in Abilene and currently lives in Clyde, America, with his wife Bethany and with their 2 sons, Caleb and Titus. So let's welcome these guys to the podium. So Calvin, I'll start with you. What are the most used SBA loan products, and how does a consumer access these products?
Thank you for the question. I first want to just say it's great, always good to be in Abilene, and I'm just so thankful that the governor's small business office decided to do this in Abilene the first time, so I wanted to give a shout out to you guys and say thank you for that. But to answer your question, the most used programs, it's going to be our usual guaranteed loan program. I think most of you all know that we probably don't make the loans. The bank makes the loans. We kind of back it up. We guarantee it. Most loans are 75%. We do have a program. I just want to give a shout out to somebody sitting beside me. I'm honored that the Hartmanns they actually are our regional, not just this Texas region, but we're talking about the Region 6 #1 exporter this year. They received the award. We gave it to you a couple weeks ago. So congratulations. And I mentioned that to say that we have an international trade loan and another export loan, a working capital loan. We give a 90% guarantee. Most of our loans are guaranteed 90%. So the 7A loan, which is a great loan to use, is really wonderful, and it gives you a longer repayment term. Instead of going to a bank, and bank loans are great, but we'll give you more of a longer term to pay it back, typically 10 years, 25 years for real estate. 504 development company loans. If you're getting a loan for a fixed asset, buying a big piece of property or big asset, let's say, with a useful life of at least 20 years, we'll give you that long term to pay it back. And the beautiful part, the bank is actually responsible for 50%. We fund 40%. And you, the borrower, only has to put in 10% typically. That could change a little bit based on the property. But those are the 2 major big programs. We have others, and I don't want to miss out on the microloan program. So many businesses need a small amount of money, $50,000 or less. We have a microloan program. We actually give the money to intermediaries. We don't give it to them. They have to pay it back, so they charge a higher interest rate. But the microloan program is one that's probably one of our better programs for getting people started and for those micro enterprises to grow. So I would say those are the 3 major ones to answer your question.
Okay. When you say microloans, what kind of dollar range are you talking about?
So 50,000 is the highest. The lowest is 500. Okay. 500 to 50,000. They're going to be a higher interest rate, but then again, they're intermediaries, and we have several, 3 in the state. But People Fund is actually located within the West Texas district, but Lift Fund is another one that really does a lot throughout the state. I can't tell you to go to one over the other, but those are the 2 that are actually very active through this area.
And so a borrower, if they wanted to access capital, they just need to go see their banker.
Yes, so that's a good question. So we always tell people it's about relationship. We talked about that in the marketing. It's a relationship. So if you have a bank that you do business with, go to that bank. Now here's the challenge. You have to think about this from a marketing standpoint from yourself. I want to go to a bank that actually knows what they're doing. So what we do, we put a list out of the active lenders, the ones who actually know what they're doing. Over at our table over there, and I want to say that we have 2 of my staff members here, District Director Raynald Lops, Colonel Lops is here, and also retired Colonel, by the way. And we also have Jennifer Oldham, Lender Relations Specialist. We list those top lenders that are over there. We're not trying to take business away from anyone, but it's kind of like if I'm sick, let's say that I need an oncologist. I don't want to go to a proctologist. Well, maybe I should go. No, it's not fun. But anyway, the point is that I want to go to the person who's going to help me the most, and so they know what they're doing. So that's kind of a key factor, that you go to the bank, and the bank actually gets you started, and then of course they may, like you as a banker, would say you may need a business plan, you may not, but you may need one. And the SBDC are partners. They do that. We have great partners. We can talk about that later.
Perfect lead in to my question for Alan with the SBDC. So Alan, I didn't mention this in the introduction. Hartmann's Inc. has been around since 1955, correct? I think my thing went out. That means it's older than, I'll try to use my coach voice. That means that business is older than I am. So Alan, what advantages has Hartmann's experienced as a result of its partnership with the SBDC?
That's a great question. And back in 2018, we were at a very critical junction in our company's time. I'm the third generation. Both of my sons work at our facility. We have one here in Abilene and one in Jacksonville, Florida. My oldest son's here. My youngest one's in Jacksonville. And at that time, our customers had come to us and said, you need to grow. We need a more reliable partner. We need a bigger partner. So we started that avenue. It was a very difficult transition to go from, a third generation, family owned, small mom and pop business to now we're turning into a sustainable, family owned, almost, like a corporate structure that actually is, it's going to be around longer than just, whoever's sitting at the top signing the paychecks. It's got to be more sustainable than that. That's what they were asking for. So we actually had reached out first to the DCOA, and Misty Mayo and her team were actually the vehicle of change for us. Misty sat in their boardroom and told us, she said, look at your pedigree of customers. She said, and you're squandering it. You're squandering it. She said, you've got to move. And so that started a discussion with us. So then we reached out to First Financial, to Scott and his team, and they sat us down, and David Smith with the SBDC was in there with us, and he said, well, we're going to get you going. What are your projections? Where do you think you're going to go? He asked the tough questions that we had to ask ourselves. What do we want to be? Do we even want to go this far? Or is this the pinnacle of where we want to be? And one of the things that happened was during that time, we had hit our, I think it was our 75th anniversary, if I'm doing my math right, our 65th anniversary. And my youngest son, he looked at me and he said, Dad, Michael and I are going to take it to 100 years. So that motivated me to say, well, we've got to form that sustainable company. And that's what we did. So David and his team came in. They helped us develop our business plan. They helped us say, these are the models that your books, need to be modeled after. This is what the bank's going to look for. And we worked hand in hand with the SBDC, the DCOA, with First Financial, with our partners, even our equipment suppliers. They said, no one's ever asked us what the SBA is asking for. And we were like, well, you got to give it to me. Come on. So we did, and we did all of that in the middle of COVID, and it was hard. It was really hard, but luckily we were able to change some positions on things, and we didn't have to lay anybody off. We were able to use them to help with the expansion side, and we're able to move into our new facility, and here we are, almost 70 employees with 2 locations, and exporter of the year this year. So we're really proud of that.
So is it fair to say that Hartmann Inc. was a sustainable, ongoing, long-term, successful business, and you still had a benefit from using SBDC? And
100%. David and his team counseled us. I don't want to say held our hand, but certainly helped keep us motivated and say, this is the next step. What do I need to help you do? Okay, this is what we need to do next. Alan, I need this from you. And would sit down with us, counsel us, coach us, help us to be where we need to be. And those are actually practices that we have instilled in our corporate structure today. And we still utilize those practices, full transparency. And I want to tell everyone here that's a small business, it is so hard to transition from a small family business to the next step. It is very, very hard to have the financials that you need, the financial transparency. And a philosophy that we had to adopt was your financials are the language that your business speaks to you of its health. And that is so true, and it was so difficult to get around that and get moving to say, hey, everybody needs our financial transparency in it. And that was very hard to get the other generations to catch that, to catch that vision. So yeah, the SBDC has been a longtime partner, and it's, we still call David today for stuff for advice.
thank you for saying that. I think a lot of people think of the SBDC as just a new business and just a startup to go in and get Zell and David and his guys to kind of put something together for their new business. And Alan's testimony to a stable business that still can use that availability. So, John, let's transition over to rural development. So, tell us about the USDA's Rural Development Program and the role that it plays in economic development.
Sure. Rural development is a mission area of the U.S. Department of Agriculture. We've been in business for a very long time. Our mission is strictly rural. We only serve those who live and work in rural America. We are, at one point, they used to say we were the largest investment banker, $230 billion portfolio across the board. We service everything from rural home ownership. We have programs for 100% no down payment financing, home repair. We also do community investment in infrastructure for water, wastewater, electric, broadband, telecom. We have loans, grants, loan guarantees for those programs. In addition to that, we also do community development, community facilities programs, so fire truck, police, healthcare financing. We have long-term solutions for that as well. And last but not least, we also offer business financing. We have some loan guarantee programs and some other tools in our toolkit to help with small business and rural entrepreneurship.
So do y'all do like rural development, like a subdivision development, infrastructure or anything like that, or?
It gets a little hard to do subdivision development, but we have some tools in place that can help. If somebody has a specific need, we'll be glad to walk through what we can do.
Okay, and do you have a definition of rural, like population size?
In our market out here, the only community that I cannot help is the city limits of Abilene. Everything outside is essentially eligible for something what that rural development has.
And can you tell me what the interest rate for that zero down payment loan is?
That program is, I'd have to defer to my
I'm
loan
just
specialist.
teasing you. Okay, Calvin, back to you. What businesses are eligible for SBA lending and what businesses are not eligible?
So, okay, let me answer that, but I wanted to just add something that the services that we provide, SBDC, they're free, okay? And that's a huge thing. And the Community Navigator program, which they're in the back also, there were only one of 51 in this whole nation who received a grant, and that was the Chamber of Commerce, Abilene Chamber of Commerce. One of 51 in the nation. That's huge. And they're providing services to rural areas and to other underserved areas. So I wanted to give you guys a shout out. In fact, Helen Urisa, are you still here? And she's probably in the back working. And Judy Wilhelm, you guys remember her? They're back there. So I want to add that. So now, back to your question. Okay, what was your question?
Well, the businesses that are eligible and businesses that are not eligible.
Yeah, that's good. Okay, yes, eligibility. So, eligibility. Almost every business is eligible if they're a small business and for profit. You have to be small and for profit. What does that mean about being small? So you probably have heard 98% of all businesses in America are small. That's just about everybody. We have size standards. Anybody ever heard of something called the NAICS codes, N-A-I-C-S? Some of you have. Yeah, North American Industrial Classification System. Basically, you can go in there and say, okay, I'm selling widgets, I'm selling or doing wholesale. It's based on your gross receipts, averaged over 3 years, or your employees. But basically, we're talking about a lot of money typically. Construction, $35 million. Because, that's a lot. You don't profit as much, but you put a lot out there in your gross revenues. Some retail, $7.5 million. It goes on. There's so many different standards. So most businesses are eligible. Key thing also is that we give to people who are legally here. Basically, if you're a U.S. citizen or you're legally able to stay here, green card, or you've actually qualified to be here through your visa. So we are pretty broad. Now, we don't do things. People come to us all the time and say, you know what, I want to invest in this apartment building or say a commercial building, and I want to make that happen. I want to flip houses. Well, basically for like just rental income, stuff like that, we don't do that. We're not here to help people just profit from their hobbies or from an investment standpoint. There's some exceptions. If you're flipping houses, maybe we won't give you money to buy the house, but maybe some of your equipment or so forth. But we pretty much want to see for-profit, non-speculative type entities for, you want to go out and help invest in an oil well or something like that. We can't do that. Stock market, people, they still ask, you know, I think I can make it in the stock market. We can't give you a loan for that. I'm sorry.
You don't do margin loans?
We're not going to do that. Okay. Hey, and just, you know, one thing that I do want to, I don't want to take all the time here, but I want to say that you mentioned our major programs. I can't go without saying that we did a heck of a job, and we still do disaster loans. We do disaster loans still. Whenever there's a fire, a flood, a natural disaster, a non-natural disaster, which COVID was non-natural, you know, we did those EIDL loans and still do. And if you need help, we have people, we can help you kind of get through that process. The PPP, thanks to the banks, we actually processed that and paid the banks back. Shutter Vineyards Operators Grant, the Restaurant Revitalization Program, through the CARES Act and the American Rescue Plan. We have a huge mission and a few people doing it. Okay, a huge mission, but we're here to serve the small businesses that that said more than you asked, but I had to get that in there, okay?
Well, that's great.
Okay.
I think sometimes we can't know enough about the resources that are available to us as individuals and our businesses. So thank you for that, Calvin. Alan, you mentioned something earlier that I picked up on and I wanted to follow up a little bit with is the EDC. You know, how did or how can the local EDC partnering with the SBDC help a business?
So that is an onion of many layers. But we're a testament of this. Only, I think, 99.99% of our business is outside of Abilene. Only a very small fraction more of that percentage of our business is even in the big country area. And then only like less than 6% is in the state of Texas. So we are reaching, you know, we're making Texas richer, right? So we're drawing money in from Europe, Asia, South America, Canada, and all around the United States, of course. But what was so good about our local DCOA, our local economic development here in Abilene, was they saw that benefit, and they said, look, we want to grow Abilene businesses to help make Abilene richer. We want to bring those outside dollars in. And so, like I said, that was the agent of change for us. They helped us see that, and we're like, oh yeah, you know, you're right. That's a good thing. So the DCOA was just gigantic in that, and I think a lot of people see the DCOA as, oh, they're only bringing in Great Lakes cheese, or they're only bringing in that. Y'all, they just did a huge. Bridgestone Tires doing what, a $65 million project here in Abilene, and they've been here for decades. That is giant. That is more coming into Abilene. So they're really, really focused on bringing that in, partnering with businesses that are already here. And guess what? You don't have to be a big business either. You can still be a small business and qualify for all those loans that Calvin's talking about. And they work well, you know. DCOA works hand in hand with the SBDC. Hey, your books are not right. You need to go see David and his team to help get that tightened up so that we can do something for you, because they want to do that for you. And don't be scared. It's scary. I'll tell you all that right now. When you're looking at it and you're like, oh wow, that's a lot of money. We talked about earlier about underfinancing. We were talking before we came up about having things underfinanced, and you want to ask for small amounts because you don't want to go with that big of a risk. Well, that's almost more detrimental than not asking for anything, because you don't want to shoot yourself in the foot before you even get into the starting blocks.
So that's a good answer. One of the things I think that I'm hearing you, Alan, talk about, Alan, is regardless of the size of your business, there are multiple partners that you should take advantage of that can help you basically get scar tissue from somebody else's experience as they're trying to grow their business or get it off the ground.
Yeah, absolutely. Don't be afraid to ask for help. We read a study the other day about how independent thinkers people are in Texas, and going up through our central southwest region up into the the Midwest and going up that how independent we are. And I was like, yeah, of course, that's why we were our own country, right? That's why we are an economic juggernaut, to quote, Governor Abbott. We are that tough and we are that resilient, but we cannot be afraid to ask for help. That's what I've learned. I have lived long enough and I'm now smart enough to know what I don't know. And I know that that's what I need to go ask for help. I cannot be all things to everyone in my company, but I am smart enough to hire those people that are the best at what they do to give those services to my customers.
Okay. John, can you go into a little bit more detail about the USDA loan programs and maybe how you qualify for those?
Sure. So our first program we have is similar to SBA. It's a guaranteed loan program. It's an 80% guarantee. So you're starting with your local lender, the lender you have a relationship with. If you don't have that, then we can certainly give you a list that we work with on a statewide basis. But that's one way that we have for funding. Eligibility, you have to be in a rural area. There's not a small business, large business requirement there. It's primarily you walk in the door. If you were to walk in my door and ask me, where can I get financing, the first thing I'm going to ask is, how much are you looking for? And we'll try to work through that. A couple of the other ways that things that we do differently at rural development is we also work with our economic development corporations to provide them with some seed money. We have a program called a Rural Business Development Grant. It's a grant that can be applied for from an EDC or a city or some other nonprofit in a rural community that wants to do lending. If they want to provide small loans to their community for small businesses specifically, and small business we define as less than $1 million gross revenue, less than 50 employees. Sometimes you don't need that big capital loan from the bank, $20,000, $30,000 to put a roof in or replace some equipment. And these funds are available all throughout our region. So that's the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to ask, where are you located? How much are you asking for? And if we have a revolving fund that may benefit you, we may send you that way. The rates that they charge are competitive. They may be even less than what you can get at a commercial lender. These entities are trying to get their money out the door just as much as the bank is. Some of the credit requirements for those are a little less. So if you have some credit issues, we may be able to help with that. The other product we offer for economic development is also through our EDCs. We offer them a loan that we can make at 1% for 30 years amortized. They turn around and lend that out at a higher interest rate so that they can pay that loan back. But it also is another way to get capital out there to those businesses in their area that are looking for funding.
So you become the lender's lender in that regard. So if I want to start a tractor repair business in Tuscola, then I can come see you.
Right.
And I need to bring my business plan, projections, operating numbers, that.
Right. Typically, we're going to ask, the first question we're going to ask, and I think SBA would say the same thing, is do you have that business plan? And if you don't, we're going to refer you out to the Small Business Development Center and try to get some of that information put in a package that will be good for the lender to look at. And then we're going to find out where you're located. If you're within one of our regional areas that we have some lending programs available, we're going to refer you out to them.
Okay, so like on this SBA, and Calvin, correct me if I'm wrong, that I would go to the bank to request this same loan, or I could come see you, and the approval process, how the bank works is how the bank works, and then the SBA guarantees a portion of the debt. So Calvin,
I do want to just make a clarification. For what you said, tractor repair, surely we could do that. Typically, though, I mean, we stay away from production of crops. That's all within the purview of agriculture. So we have an understanding, a memorandum of understanding that when that happens, we refer that to the experts over there. But if it's a farming entity or something that you're doing in that regard, surely you can come to us. And of course, you pick the product that's best for you.
Sure. I was just kind of curious as to the approval process. That, you know, when a customer comes and wants to borrow money, they go to the bank and the bank collects their financial information, all the things that they require, and then it goes to loan committee in the bank. And then, so how does that work with the USDA? Is there a loan committee? Is there a approval
It's
process?
very similar. So the guaranteed loan program, it's the lender's loan. They'll apply for the guarantee. Depending on the level of what they're asking for, we have an in-state loan committee that reviews that. If they're above a certain threshold, then our national office lending committee will kick in and they'll review it when it comes up. For the other programs, the revolving loan funds, those have a local committee. Typically, we ask those economic development corporations to have a lending board that reviews those loans. They make their determination, then they send it to us as a secondary review, and once we're comfortable with it, we'll move forward with finance.
Okay, thank you. So Alan's mentioned quite a bit about how important having capital available is. So Calvin, back to you. What would be the advantages of using the SBA for their business?
Yeah, so there's a win-win when you think about SBA. I mentioned earlier how what the big advantage for using SBA is we're going to give you a longer period to pay back the loan. You think about, you want to buy a building for $1 million. Maybe a commercial banker might say you need to pay that thing back in 10 years. Again, we can give you up to 25 years. Hence, your cash flow is so much better. And the interest rates are pretty much competitive because we start with prime plus. You negotiate that. I mean, right now, with prime's at 8 1/4. If you look over the past 5 months, the SBA loans have averaged between 7 1/4 to 9 3/4. But the point is that if you get the better credit you have, the better you can negotiate. And you're going to get a cap. You can't go over a certain amount over prime for SBA. And the win is that for the lender is that they're protected from loss up to a certain percentage of any potential loss from the guarantee. And what's really important for the lenders out there is that in the rural communities and even in some non-rural communities, that SBA portion doesn't count against your legal lending limit. What does that mean? So banks have a maximum amount that they can lend. They may have extra money, but they have to reserve so much money for that, and they can only lend so much. So it doesn't count against their legal lending limit. Also, they don't have to reserve the money. So if they give you a loan for $1 million, they may have to reserve up to $800,000 or so. They don't have to reserve that. So with SBA, they can continue to make more loans. So it's a win-win for the bank most of the time, and a win-win for the borrower most of the time. And the fees, any fees that we have, and by the way, through the end of this year, for loans for $500,000 or less, we've waived all the fees. So those fees are not there for now. There are small, the fees aren't that big, and they can be financed within the loan, but they've been waived for those loans 500 or less through the end of the fiscal year, which ends September 30th. A big point, because with these rising interest rates, SBA has become more attractive. We've seen a nice uptick in lending. It doesn't matter if you get loans from us. We want to help the small businesses. We want you to get the best deal possible.
So I want to follow up a little bit with that, Calvin, if I may. So a lot of times when people think about dealing with the government on anything, it's like, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to give my firstborn kid. I'm going to have to do a family genealogy history to get everything done. So y'all have a direct underwriting program that can you explain that direct underwriting program and how that works?
So the direct underwriting, so effectively, now first off, we are the government and we are here to help, don't you know? So no, when you say the underwriting program, the bank is pretty much doing the underwriting, just like with our regular 7(a) loans. We do have a direct loan program. The disaster loan programs are direct loans from us. I don't know if you, right. So, but from the bank standpoint, the lender basically is going to do all the upfront stuff like you all said. But then they come to SBA if it's not a preferred lender. We actually do look at it at our centers. We have processing centers, and but most of the times the lenders who've done this, they know what they're doing. We don't really have any rules that are gonna pretty much block them. The only thing that's changed recently is that the biggest impediment we find to small businesses is the capital to come in. As a banker, you have to have that skin in the game. You guys aren't going to give a 100% loan to someone unless they've actually been doing business like Hartmann. You guys probably can come in because you've been doing business. They might not ask you for a down payment, but typically you have to have some money in the game. We used to not ask for anything. Whatever the bank wanted is fine. Whatever's reasonable. If your startup, 10% is the 10% of the loan is what you need to come up with for a startup. A non-startup, it can negotiate, it's flexible. So that's the biggest challenge, and that's what we require, those types of things. And, you know, we've cut down a lot of the paperwork. I mean, it's not your grandfather's SBA where they wanted your arm and leg and firstborn. I mean, we've actually made it smoother and turnaround times. Jennifer, what's our turnaround time? I'll put you on the spot now for our loan program.
Yeah, so your bank will underwrite the loan in-house, but then they'll submit it to SBA. We have preferred lenders who get automatic approval, and so it does not add any processing time. But if they do have to submit it to our underwriters, small loans under 500,000, if it's a complete packet, it adds about 4 to 5 business days to your term time. If it's a larger, more complex loan, it could add anywhere from 2 to 3 weeks. So, but our lenders are aware of that, and they should discuss that with you to manage expectations around timing.
See, I'm not a delegate.
I think preferred lender was the term I meant, not direct underwriter. So I think that's clarified that, so thank you. Alan, back to you. How does the Small Business Development Center, how has that helped y'all gain access to capital?
Well, you know, first of all, like I said earlier, they helped us to develop our business plan, what our financials need to look like, you know, expectations on what a healthy company will look like, and also manage expectations on what it was going to look like to go and ask for this amount of capital from our bank and ultimately, you know, with the SBA. So they helped with those regions of the business. And then we also went into, you know, that they've gone into and they offer services to you know, what other help can you get, you know, along the way as you're developing this. And we saw the exact same thing with the DCOA in Abilene. They were hand in hand offering similar things, you know, as we're needing to get everything squared away. That, you know, that they were helping us along the way, but the SBDC was offering, you know, A and B, and then the DCOA was coming down here and said, oh, you know, don't forget about 1 and 2 down here as well. So we were actually able to combine and capitalize, and it just made it a much, you know, a less scary experience, I guess. I don't know, because, you know, it was right. Felt like we were signing away our firstborn, and then my kid's firstborn as well. I don't know, but it's worked out very well. It's been a good experience.
Okay, thank you, Alan. We're just about to the end of our time, so I'd like to open it up for questions from the audience. If anybody has anything for these gentlemen, they might can answer or point you in the right direction. Anybody?
May I, while they're thinking of a question, may I do a
Absolutely.
advertisement? Okay.
Absolutely.
So there's a program called Thrive that's been offered for the first time in West Texas, and we have more flyers back there. And this is an accelerated business growth program that is free training from top professionals. You also network with other CEOs in the field, and you can apply online. It closes on the 22nd of May. But it's a great program, and of course you have 8 in-person sessions, and there are 8 virtual sessions. You get to network with others, and you get to develop a long-term plan for your business that's help that coaches help you develop. So it's really a great program called Thrive. If you have THRIVE, if you have a desire, please see me or certainly Jennifer or Ray. So raise your hands. My staff folks who are here, they can help you get through the process.
Okay, thank you. Let's thank. Oh, yes, ma'am.
So, with the West Texas Business Navigator, could any 4 of you speak to, we get the question all the time, so are there grants to start a business?
I'll take that.
Go for it.
Basically, no. And I say basically no because people have heard about our small business innovative research grants. Is not ours, and the small business technology transfer grants. Those are for startup innovative businesses And it's not an SBA program. We just kind of coordinated. There are 7 agencies that provide that grant, and primarily you find universities who actually have those programs, just like Texas Tech, the Innovation Hub, where you go in and say, hey, I have this innovation. I want to create this new sprinkler system for farming products, or whatever it may be. So yes, there are no grants basically for startups. Basically, we want to keep that out there. People ask us every day.
John, you have.
Right. We get that question a lot too. And the only grant that we do have is for renewable energy for businesses. We can pay for right now up to 50% for putting in solar or some sort of renewable energy or energy efficiency upgrades. But it's the only grant I have that's directly available to a business.
Okay. Anybody else before I do a shameless plug for the Business Navigator Forum? Yes, sir.
My question is to John. In using your program, does your business or do you have to live in the rural area?
Your business needs to be located in that rural area.
Good question. Anybody else? Okay, shameless plug time. We have a mentoring program through the Business Navigator grant that we meet on a monthly basis with entrepreneurs, business owners. It's a lunchtime type meeting, and we have different speakers come. Typically, we have someone come. I had a young lady who started a physical therapy clinic that has been very successful. It's been in business about 3 years, and she came and spoke during that lunch. Lunch is on you, by the way. But she was able to talk about some of the challenges that she had to overcome when she was starting her business. She's a cash-based business, does not take insurance, and it's been wildly successful. Our next one is going to be on the 24th of this month, and we have a data analyst professor that's going to come and talk about how to use ChatGPT for your business. So the ladies, Helen and Judy, are waving flyers back there in the back if y'all want to look at those. And I'd welcome y'all to come. They're informative and have been I think anyway beneficial for the folks that have come. So it doesn't have to be a new business. It can be an existing business. If you're in business, we'd love to have you guys come out. So that's my shameless plug, and I would like to thank the panelists for taking time. And other than that, I guess we don't know who to turn this over to, but I think we're going to eat here in just a minute. So thank you guys for your time.